You are thinking of buying the perfect retirement home, a little bit ahead of your retirement. And as it turns out, it's a couple hours from your current home. Does that make it any harder to get a loan qualified and approved so you can close? This is Ron Wysakarski for the Black Hole of Real Estate. And that's a mouthful. So I want to break this down for you because there are a growing number of people that are pre-buying their retirement homes. And I can understand why. The reasons to do it, they're anxious. They want to get into a property. They see the rates have come down. And by the way, some of the prices are trickling up. Some of these homes in the $400,000 to $600,000 range locally, they're starting to pick up and they're selling faster. So when you see them coming off the market, the next one might just cost a little bit more. And as the inventory shrinks, especially when you were looking at a very, very specific home as far as floor plan, bedrooms, bathrooms, does it have a pool? Does it have a fence? Is there a place for the kids? You start to add it up and the inventory gets tight super, super fast. So when we have these situations, it's understandable that a buyer might just move up their own timeline. Now, let's suppose that you're going to retire 6 months, 12 months down the road. You could qualify your income right now. Your lender, if they're unaware that you're retiring in the next year, they're probably just going to qualify it on the last 2 years' tax returns or at least last year's income. And they may not ask the question. It may not be on any forms if you're going to retire anytime soon. So I'm not sure if that's omission. If they don't ask you a question, maybe not answer it, if I'm saying that right. But if you introduce the idea that you're retiring, then they're going to want to say, what's your retirement income look like? And then can you qualify based on that? A lot of people also have a home to sell. Now that could be an interesting proposition. You're not quite ready to sell your home, and maybe it's free and clear and you'd like to buy another one. Well, that would make sense. Temporarily take a loan to buy the new one, and then you can either keep the cash when you sell yours, keep it, because you like it, or possibly use it as a rental for additional retirement income. So you've got lots of options as far as what to do with the existing home. But I want to walk it back to the other one. You see, you can only have one primary residence. And at some point, if you're looking to make that purchase, the interest rates are a little bit lower if it's owner occupied, just a little bit more if it's going to be a second home. And there's other qualifying things to go along with that, mainly a larger down payment. So if you're buying a property owner occupied, you could do an FHA at 3.5% down, VA if you qualify for that loan, but also conventional, maybe as low as 5% down. Now, if we go into second home, somewhere between 10 and 20% down, so that's going to change. And the rate, maybe it's an eighth or a quarter of a point higher. So those things all come into the mix. And if you, at some point, are going to sell the property, well, you're just retiring the debt. Maybe you're selling your home and it's worth way more than the property that you're buying. Then in that case, it could very well be that you take a slightly higher interest rate right now. But if you're going to pay it off in a year or two, it probably isn't that big of a deal. And that's going to leave it at that. Now, I mentioned there's a couple of wrinkles within this. So owner occupied, super simple. You get the new property, you probably homestead it, and you get all the tax discounts or portability, you move it to the new property. It just means that the taxes are going to go up on the other property. So I would do that when you know that you're definitely moving and definitely selling. That's an important piece of the puzzle over here. Now, the other thing is, if you're currently working and your job says you can work from any place on the planet or work remotely, then that's going to be okay. Where we do run into problems is, let's suppose that you are more than 2 hours away from where you work compared to where you're going to live. Most lenders are not comfortable with a 2-hour commute from your new home to your current JOB. And if that's the case, what they're going to say is, we're not going to give you an owner-occupied loan because you live 2 hours away. Some lenders will use 150 miles as that line of demarcation. So that's a difficult thing to disprove unless you work at a place where they have a number of satellite offices that you can be seen as working in that. We've had this a couple of times recently. We've got a closing this week where they had to show that the person qualifying for the loan actually worked at a branch location, not the main office, that did fit into the right criteria to do that type of a loan. So it does happen. And I'm working with clients that are right now experiencing the same thing. So let me put this, in some sort of a neat little package for you. If you're pre-buying your retirement home or your next home, and it's more than 2 hours away or 150 miles away, you may need to apply for it to be your second home if you're going to continue to use the income from your current job. Now, if you can move to a different area, like your new area, and stay with the same company, in the same role, the same pay, and you're just transferring offices, they'll just want to see the documentation of transferring offices. Doesn't happen too often. So keep in mind, if that's the case, you're going to shift from owner-occupied to perhaps a second home, and that's going to give you some opportunity to make this qualify for yourself, but probably a little higher interest rate, probably a little higher down payment. Now, the third option, it's not quite nuclear option, but is to buy as an investment property. You'll have at least 20% down. It'll be looked at as a rental property for your insurance and things like that. And if you decide to move in at some point, people do move into the rental properties. At some point, you would just change the insurance around. And maybe if the rates get super low in the next couple of years, you refinance and say, hey, we're switching this from an investment property into owner occupied. And if that happens in a year or two, when you're selling a home or not selling the other home, there's a lot that you can blend into that. So if you're looking to pre-buy, I would say go forward with it. Test out owner occupied if it works. Test it a second home if owner occupied doesn't work or doesn't make sense. And as the third option, you can buy as an investment property and then eventually move in. There's nothing that says you can't do that. So it's a lot to take in. And I want to make sure we got this information out there because with so many people getting ready to make purchases because the rates are lower, it's tax time. Everybody's got their tax returns done or pretty close to it. And they're getting ready to make those moves. A lot of people are ready to retire in the next year or two. This is going to become an important piece of the real estate landscape. If you got questions, definitely drop me a line. And if not, just hit the subscribe button and we'll keep letting you know what we know about what's going on with financing and all the things that are in place right now that you may not be aware of. This is Ron Wojciechowski for the Black Hole of Real Estate.